No. Like, no. Not at all. I don't care if that man has 10% cursed energy left. He's beating the brakes off of all of them.
Thank you to our $5 patrons Rebel 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, Sean, Alex, Ice Rose, and Demix LND. And another thank you to our $3 members Recliner Plays and Rebel 4765. And another very big thank you to our $10 patrons Robbie Uchiha, Ido Okami, and Joaquin. And another very big thank you to our $25 member Alex Ice Rose.
Before we have this breakdown, such discussion and analysis on whether or not the three heavy hitters of Jujutsu High can take down the fatigued King of Curses, Sukuna. Please leave your own thoughts on whether or not they could beat Sukuna in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we are to talk about my thoughts on whether or not the beasts, the monsters, the demons, known as Jujutsu High's heavy hitters, as referred to by Kenjaku himself, and whether or not they can take down the fatigued King of Curses. Obviously, with the end of chapter 229 running about, a whole bunch of Gojo... what's the opposite of a Gojo Glazer? That still goes with G. Like, I have no idea. Gojo... I have no clue. But regardless, the Sukuna Sloppers, they're going crazy. They're going wild. They're going buku bonkers. They said Big Daddy Maharaga came out. Big Daddy Maharaga's going to slap his big meat on the table, smack Gojo right on out of the narrative, and it's going to be time for the kids to step up. And Sukuna's going to recover, and then we're finally going to get the heavy hitters versus Sukuna, like Kenjaku predicted right at the start of the battle between Gojo and Sukuna. And now, notably, I do believe there's another character who definitely wants the ones with Sukuna real quick, and probably is going to do anything in his power to go get those ones before the heavy hitters can step in. I've already made my opinions quite clear on what I think is going to happen to that man in case he tries to step up against Sukuna, but of course, I'm going to glaze him too soon enough. Just let me cook that video a little bit longer. But with that being the case, we need to tackle the heavy hitters against Sukuna. Now, there are some certain stipulations I'm going to add here. One, I'm only going to be using confirmed scaling. Aka no hypothetical stuff, nothing that we could hypothesize or whip out in our big fat giga brains to see if we could work around to get certain characters to places they aren't. No, we're going to go their highest level of scaling that we've seen so far in the narrative. Speaking of confirmed lockdown scaling, another thing we're going to keep is their current moveset. There was a whole month, and I know certain fans of one character who is included in the heavy hitter cast is definitely going to be like, but he could have this, he could have that, he could have this, he could have that, he could have this, he could have that. Yes, I know. He could have everything. He could have Idle Transfiguration. And ironically enough, I'm not even kidding about that. But with that being the case, I'm going to go with what's confirmed. Just confirmed for right now. Based on how that boy's been sweating, whatever he did get over the time skip probably wasn't enough anyway. But those are my two big rules. We're going to go with what exists right now and what could exist never, because we're not going to talk about that. I'll make a whole separate video talking about Yuta's hypothetical potential. I'll make a whole hypothetical video about Maki's hypothetical potential. Heck, I'll even throw Hakari's in there, because I think Hakari does have some secret sauce locked behind the 777. But for right now, we're going to talk about purely confirmed things that all these characters have access to, and let's hop into why I think they still stand absolutely no chance against 20-finger Sukuna, even while he's fatigued. So, the three heavy hitters in their aspect that we're going to cover first is simply their scaling. Where they scale, and why I don't think they could reasonably scale to 20-finger Sukuna even while he's fatigued. And the easiest one to cover, because we literally see them fight Sukuna, ironically enough, is Maki. Now, if you know my opinions on Maki, you know I actually think she's the overall strongest out of this group, and it's for two very specific reasons. One, because she has direct speed scaling to 15-finger Sukuna, who explicitly stated his physical movement was not nerfed. He was not nerfed. He said it. He said it, gosh darn it. I have no idea what you want from me. He said his physical movement was not impaired by Megami, only his cursed energy output. So, you leave me be. But regardless, that's her best scaling. Like, legitimately, that's her best scaling, to 15-finger. And notably, while she does, like, hit him, at least from what I can tell on a reread of 215, she doesn't actually do any damage to him with basic punches. Any punches or kicks or any fancy stuff she doesn't actually do anything. In fact, she's the only one to take damage to their interaction when he punches her hard enough to draw the life juice out of her. And that's not good. Essentially, she's 5 fingers behind where Sukuna is currently at. Or 4, regardless. I know Sukuna fans, semantics. Well, actually, no, Sukuna fans don't think semantics. I don't think it's really, really important. And of course, I'm a Sukuna fan myself, so I know it's important that he doesn't have the last finger. But if he thinks that the curse energy left over in the mummified body can make up for a missing finger, I'm just gonna say it's 20 finger Sukuna, alright? Regardless, Maki has nothing speed-wise to imply that she could keep up with 20 finger Sukuna. Mainly because speed, unlike the rest of the things, well, not necessarily. The thing with speed in comparison to something like attack power when it comes to JJK is that speed and attack power don't actually linearly scale. Someone like Naoya and Naobito are much, much, much faster than characters who are much, much, much physically stronger than them, like Dagon. You literally see this in their fight. And of course, you could say, oh, well, that's just projection sorcery. Well, it's not just projection sorcery. Heck, someone like Ryu, who is extremely powerful, in fact, has the highest curse energy output in all of history. He should have, realistically, the hardest punch in the entire verse, gets casually perception blitzed by 15 fingers Maguna. And it's just like that, even though Ryu, for all intents and purposes, should be way stronger. So speed and power don't necessarily correlate. And that's why Maki, despite having super duper impressive speed, doesn't really have anything to suggest that she could actually damage 20 finger Sukuna, even with his cursed energy rundown, especially considering we don't actually have a number to say how much Sukuna is really fatigued. Notably, he seems perfectly fine. He's not Gojo Satoru, he doesn't have basically limitless cursed energy, but at the same time, in terms of as of 229, he's expressed absolutely no fatigue at all. And thusly, his durability shouldn't be lowered. And he's already durable enough to eat every single punch or kick that Maki has to give him, and even is more than capable of reacting to her casually while fighting a whole other human being who is also relative to him in speed, which was awakened Yuji Itadori, or liberated Yuji as I've come to call him. So Sukuna at 15 finger has absolutely no issue dealing with Maki speed wise, and Maki power wise is unable to damage him. I don't think I need to convince you that Sukuna with 5 more fingers worth of cursed energy, 5 more fingers worth of reinforcement, 5 more fingers worth of speed. Output is weird. I'm not sure about output. Once again, output and speed / durability do not really correlate, because look at Ryu. Highest output in the verse, but clearly not the fastest. So even just that, the raw stats of Sukuna being able to already keep up with and kind of casually, I wouldn't say outpace Maki. I do say the two are pretty relative, because when Sukuna is having the one-on-one with her, she's able to react and redirect his attacks. But still, if he's able to do that at 15 finger while dealing with liberated Yuji at the same time, 20 finger Maguna, even while fatigued, is just fine. If 20 finger Maguna is able to keep up with Gojo, who has 10 years of experience on top of 10 years of power growth, when a teen Gojo who is awakened ran up on Toji and was casually perception blitzing that man, to the point where Toji couldn't land a single individual hit, and Maki is the demonic fighter that's exactly equal to that Toji, yeah, at least for right now, 20 Finger Sukuna is in an entirely different league. Unfortunately, likely an entire perception blitz tier, if you want to go with awakened Gojo just being equal to modern Gojo, which I think everyone and their mama knows is blasphemous, but we do have a verbatim statement by the narrator that Maki is a direct equal to Toji. And while in most aspects that's fantastic, specifically going up against 20 Finger Sukuna even while fatigued from battling Gojo, it's just not good enough. Her current scaling just isn't good enough. The speed is not good enough. The power is not good enough. The durability is not good enough. If a regular hit from Sukuna can cause her to whip out some life juice, imagine what a regular hit from 20 finger Sukuna is going to do. I lied. Imagine what a dismantle is going to do. Because Cleave is going to be... What would Cleave react? I have no idea how Cleave would interact with the Heavenly Restriction Duo. But at least a dismantle and Maki's pieced up, unfortunately. And that's just her raw scaling. Moving on to the next person's raw scaling. The one who's super duper weird. Like, trust me guys, I love Hakari as much as the next guy, but he is like a living, breathing, undying nightmare to scale, mainly because his scaling goes nowhere. It leads him directly to Kashimo. And Kashimo is just directly above Panda. Where does this leave us? Being directly above Fodder leaves us nowhere. But there are some general assumptions we can make about Hakari that still lead me to believe that, at least with what his current scaling implies, he's not going to be able to do anything to even a fatigue 20 finger Sukuna. So, big fight for Hakari. The big thing that really gets us Gucci and geeking. Number one, before you even get into this, Hakari will be in Jackpot. He has to be in Jackpot. He has to start the battle in Jackpot. I am sorry. I think you guys understand what would happen to Hakari if he tried to run up on Sukuna and open domain on him. He's getting Malevolent Shrine and counter-domained immediately, and then suddenly, his barrier shatters and then he immediately perishes. So we're going to assume, for Hakari's sake, that he's starting the battle in Jackpot. Is that how it would go? Not necessarily. He's sitting around clearly not in Jackpot, but just to be generous to the mad gambler, let's say he's in Jackpot. Hakari's speed and strength stats do not compare at all to Gojo. They do not compare at all to, realistically, even 15 finger in my opinion. Because it'll be Hakari's best verbatim scaling is Yuta's statement about Hakari on a roll being stronger than him. But remember, for all intents and purposes, it's very, very impressive, don't get me wrong, but relative to 20 finger Sukuna, it's not that impressive. Being stronger than Yuta only amounts to Hakari leaving a couple marks on Kashimo. Notably, he does smack Kashimo around, especially when he gets the cursed energy bonus near the end of a round, but even with that being the case, his physical stats just don't compare. You gotta remember, Hakari's best speed feat, just talking purely about speed, is being just barely sorta able to react to Kashimo's lightning once. That was it. He never reacts to it again in their fight. You can go reread. He only reacts to the first bolt, just barely. And by react, I mean he, instead of getting his head blown off, he gets his arm blown off. Meanwhile, someone like Maki is not only able to react to lightning drop by a giga amped Nue, but completely dodge it. Meanwhile, Hakari couldn't. So Maki, who should be faster, is able to completely still be taken care of by 15 finger Sukuna. 15 finger Sukuna. It's not looking that good. And you may say, well, Pencil, that line of scaling is a little bit too indirect. We don't know how Maki actually dealt with the lightning. In fact, Sukuna says he doesn't see any damage from Nue, so that may imply that Maki just face tanked it. Okay, let's go with that. And let's just go back with Hakari scaling directly to Kashimo. Where does that take us? Once again, it's just nebulously above Yuta. And Yuta, unfortunately, I don't want to say Yuta's not that fast, but he isn't that fast. Notably, Yuta, if we do take the fact that he should be considered in the statement made about Naobito, and Naobito being the second fastest sorcerer, Yuta isn't even faster than Naobito. At all. And remember, Maki's faster than Naobito. Maki's faster than Naoya. And Maki's being completely taken care of and mopped up by, I don't know, let me think, 15 finger. So we have Maki out here being inarguably, I'd say, the fastest of this group, and Hakari really struggling to get some solid scaling for himself, at least to anywhere else. But let's just be generous, right? Let's say Hakari speed magically scales to Maki. They both have seemingly similar enough lightning feats. Hakari has infinite cursed energy, so his reinforcements got to be crazy. And Kashimo Hajime, he's a really strong dude. So let's just say equal to Maki. I already explained to you why Maki's still not really going to do anything in 20 figure Sukuna speed-wise. And even power-wise. Here's the big thing, right? Because people may be wondering, alright, maybe Hakari just isn't that fast because we have no way to scale him directly to anyone else, unfortunately. The only thing you could hypothetically argue, I mean, it's weird. It's super duper weird. You could technically argue that Hakari falls outside of the Naobito statement because he's not in the Jujutsu Society anymore. He was kicked out. So being generous and assuming that being stronger than Yuta means faster than Naobito is just nebulously around or below Maki. It's not like Hakari's entire speed blitz tiers above Naobito, even ignoring or trying to argue around that statement about Naobito. And that is still, unfortunately, way too slow. And need I remind you, slopping off Hakari's speed to the ultimate degree, really just all over his speed stat, it's still gonna be slower than Gojo. Because Gojo's in an entirely different tier than Hakari. And guess what 20 Finger Sukuna has been pretty much able to do for the most part throughout a majority of this battle. You can definitely see he's struggling a bit more in 229, but Sukuna's been able to be relative and react to a lot of Gojo's attacks, and except for when he randomly increases his speed. So, yeah, still not looking good for Hakari in the speed stat. And then for the power stat, need to remind you, Hakari was swinging on Kashimo, swinging with a decent amounts of force, dare I say. But Kashimo, by the end of their battle, had like a couple marks on him. A few scratches. Nothing too crazy. Even being generous to Hakari and say he was holding back to not execute Kashimo, if he could have one-tapped Kashimo, he would have one-tapped Kashimo. Like, he just would have. And he couldn't, because he can't. So that just leaves Hakari in a really awkward spot strength-wise, because once again, it doesn't go anywhere. I'll give you this. Hypothetically, he should be physically stronger than Maki, and he should be physically stronger than Yuta, according to Yuta himself. But that still doesn't put him anywhere near the range of 15 Finger Sukuna. Not to talk of 20 Finger Sukuna, even while 20 Finger Sukuna is fatigued. And unfortunately, that's, once again, Hakari's best stats, because we have no real way to scale. I don't know. Do y'all have like a solid scale for Hakari to reach him to the rest of the verse? It is a nightmare. I've been trying to make a how strong his Hakari video for like months now. But it's so hard to scale the man, because he doesn't, like, there's no pathway. The only pathway is nebulously above Yuta. But like, what does that mean? What does that mean relative to Kinjaku? What does that mean relative to 15 Finger? What does that mean relative to Ume? What does that mean relative to Maki? Like, being stronger than Yuta, a couple characters are stronger than Yuta. That's neat, but it doesn't mean much. But speaking of the Yuta Yucker, or the famous curse kisser himself, let's talk about Yuta Kotsu and why even his stats don't really compare. So the big one, power or output, or just raw striking. Yeah, Yuta ain't all that. Like, at least in terms of just raw, like, Yuta punching you is not the craziest thing. If Yuta with a sword is able to be blocked and dealt with by Kuraushi, I don't think I need to convince you that Yuta with a sword could be blocked and dealt with by 15 Finger, not to talk of 20 Finger. Yeah, 20 Finger just absolutely annihilates that man in terms of just raw hand, like everything, not just like raw physical power, but also just hand-to-hand skill. Yuta, I don't know. Yuta has not really shown anything crazy hand-to-hand wise, except like slight relativity to Ryu and Uro in terms of hand-to-hand, but even then he was getting outboxed by both of them for the most part. So I don't really think Yuta's really got all that in terms of raw output. It's noted by Ryu himself that Yuta's output is pretty much average too. So like, there's nothing to suggest that Yuta base or full power, because notably it doesn't seem like his output stats change, except for maybe he can do the full power laser. But even still, his full power laser is able to be palmed by Ryu. Palmed. Like, that's crazy. If Ryu's able to palm it, I bet 15 Finger Sukuna can palm it. I bet 20 Finger Sukuna could definitely palm it. But let's say, you know what, let's just slop Yuta off a bit. Let's just say, you know, Yuta, he's second only to Satoru Gojo. And if Satoru Gojo's able to damage Sukuna, then obviously Yuta Kotsu's gotta be able to damage Sukuna, man. So let's get active. Yeah, Yuta's still way too slow. Like, way too slow to deal any damage to 20 Finger Sukuna. You think I'm kidding? You know what I'm about to say. All you Yuta fans, you know it. I've yet to see a decent counter argument. Yeah, I saw one. I need to double check that one. I saw one counter argument in the comment section, but I'm going to just repeat it because I will not repeat the counter argument because I don't fully remember. I need to double check it. But specifically, go to chapter 216 of Jujutsu Kaisen, and then you get to see Ryu versus 15 Finger. I remind you, 15 Finger Sukuna. And remember, this is the same Ryu who's shown extreme speed relativity, if not slight speed superiority, to both fully manifested Rika and also full power Yuta. And I'm sorry, y'all. Like I said, just using confirmed scaling. No, oh, Yuta was holding back. Oh, Yuta has more in the tank. Oh, Yuta got stronger with a month of training. Not using any of that. Yuta and Ryu are at bare minimum relative in speed. And then you get to see Ryu attempt to strike Sukuna, but absolutely fail and get tagged before he can even land the hit and get thrown back. So Ryu couldn't land a single hit on Sukuna when he was right in his face. And then he tries to run up on Sukuna and hit him with a Granite Blast, then he gets Perception Blitz. I'm sorry. That's 15 finger, by the way. Like, that's 15 finger, by the way. Like, even if, right? Because I know a lot of people did not like when I said, well, Maki should just be way faster because she's shown relativity to a non-physically hampered 15 finger Sukuna. Alright, fine. Let's even do that. Let's just downgrade Maki a whole bunch. Because why not? That still doesn't do Yuta any good. Because, once again, he scales directly to this Ryu, who gets Perception Blitz and Speed. And thusly, he would also get Perception Blitz by 15 finger. Not to talk of 20. And once again, need to remind you, Yuta is included in all the Sorcerer Statement. He is a registered special grade. He is under all those precautions when it comes to Nobito being the second fastest sorcerer. That includes Yuta. That is, and literally we see it. We see right when Gojo is about to get sealed, we get the modern updated design of Yuta shown in the manga by Kenjaku. Knowing Kenjaku knows, and the narrator transcends even Kenjaku in terms of knowledge. So when the narrator says Nobito is the second fastest sorcerer, that means Yuta's slower than Nobito. And Maki's faster than Nobito. I don't get why y'all are so against Maki being faster than Yuta. But regardless, that's just how the cookie crumbles. Yuta just doesn't have any sort of speed scaling that suggests that he's that quick, that speedy, that Gonzalez. Maybe with some hypothetical stuff, but even if you were to slop him off with some hypothetical stuff, which I'll get into in his Yuta's own video, trust me, I'm cooking up something for Yuta. I know I've been slandering the boy a whole bunch. I'm sorry, Yuta fans. I love the guy too. Just let me cook a little bit more. I'm sorry. But with that being the case, stats-wise, none of them compare to realistically. The only one who kind of remotely compares in one stat to 15 finger is Maki. And that stat is speed, not actual attack power, not anything like that. And the other two just stand no chance. Now imagine them going up against 20 finger Sukuna. Everything amplified even more. Yet they're just not in the same ballpark. Like, I hate to say it. It's just not looking good for any of them in terms of their raw stats. But you may be wondering, wait. You, Pencil Man, before you say such blasphemous things about the heavy hitters of Jujutsu High, what about their haxical abilities, their mystical magical powers, maybe against a fatigued 15 finger who should still outclass them in every single stat, meaning that their hacks would never even be able to land? What about their hacks abilities? Let's talk about it. Number one, we're going to go in the same order. Let's talk about Maki first. Her only real hacks is Soul Splitter. Like, if she, even with her precog, was still able to get tagged by 15 finger, then she's going to be able to get tagged by 20 finger. That's her only other major hacks, and all she has is Soul Split Katana. She doesn't have Inverted Spear of Heaven. She doesn't have any of that other fancy stuff. She doesn't even have Playful Cloud anymore. So she's stuck with Soul Splitter. And now, notably, Soul Splitter is fantastic. I think it hypothetically should work on Sukuna. If it hits, because it attacks the soul. Though, honestly, you could make a pretty, it'd be kind of a meme argument, but, like, it's not, like, entirely a meme argument. Like, someone mentioned it to me, and I'll admit, I've kind of been parroting it. Hypothetically, you could argue that Sukuna, considering how strong his soul is implied to be, he could hypothetically resist Soul Split Katana. But for Maki's sake, let's say that Soul Split Katana 100 million billion % just ignores all the durability of Sukuna and cleaves straight through him if she lands the hit. There's that big, fat, thick, girthy, hefty 2 letters at the end of that statement. Really towards the middle of it. The if she can land the hit. And I don't think she can. Like being completely real with you, I don't think she can do it. Mainly because, once again, her best speed scaling puts her at 15 finger levels of speed. Not 20. Nothing implies. Once again, I gotta remind you, she is stated by the narrator himself, or themselves, to be equal to Toji Zenin in all aspects. She is clearly stated to be a demonic fighter equal to Toji Zenin. And you know what that means? It means that she should be way, and I mean way slower than Awakened Teen Gojo. And Awakened Teen Gojo was milli rocking on any block all over Toji. Now, I've mentioned this earlier on, but I don't think it's too unreasonable a claim to make that a 10 years plus experienced Gojo with a month of special training is much stronger, much faster, and much more dangerous than a freshly awakened teen Gojo. And thusly is likely in even higher speed tier than Toji and Maki are. And thusly, Sukuna with 20 fingers, who's been going Sukuna, who's at 20 fingers, who's been going relative to that Gojo, in terms of speed would likely perception blitz Maki twice. It's like, I hate to say it, but it really be like that. Would it be like that? Especially would it be like that? Now, see, there's no universe where she's actually landing a hit with Soul Split Katana. And that's her only hacks. We've already seen that her physicals don't do much of anything to 15 finger, not to talk of 20. So she's kind of done. Moving on to the next person with hacks. I lied. He doesn't have any hacks. Hakari sucks. Okay, no. Hear me out, Hakari fans. Hakari sucks hacks-wise. Because tell me, what can the man do? He can punch you. And he can kick you, and he can headbutt you, and then he can punch you. Like, he has no hacks, negative hacks. Once again, I believe the Hakari fan in me is like, he's got to have something. He's got to have something in his back pocket, please. I'm hoping that 777 miracle spin that he gets will give him some, like, super crazy thing to actually do with all that infinite cursed energy. Because, like, Hakari, this is going to sound crazy, but Hakari's so booty water that he can't even release his cursed energy in a blast like Yuta can. Like, at least Yuta can, like, blast off with his cursed energy. Hakari with infinite cursed energy, literally all he does is punch. And I've already gone over why I do believe that he could never even hit Sukuna. And even if he did, if Kashimo's able to face tank a lot of Hakari's attacks with pretty much negative zero zilch damage. Okay, I'm kind of gassed a little bit too. He took some damage by the end of their battle. But if Kashimo's able to eat multiple hits and go blow for blow with Hakari with pretty much no problem without infinite cursed energy, I think the guy with more than double the cursed energy of Yuta and insane physical stats on his own would be just fine against Hakari, even if Hakari were to land a hit. Which Hakari would never do, by the way. Like, legitimately, it would be nigh on impossible for Hakari to land a hit. So Hakari, unfortunately, his abilities are, non-existent. Non-existent. Bro just has another in the back pocket. So that leaves the man, the myth, the legend himself, Yuta Ogotsu. Now, once again, Yuta fans, I will say it again so y'all can hear me when I speak it. And I do declare, I am using Yuta's confirmed abilities. The confirmed abilities that we know for an actual factual that Yuta has. Trust me, I can tell you this, preview for the Yuta video. I think there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are about like 9, well really like 11. There are 11 other techniques that I think Yuta, well no, there's like 15. This is going to be a really long video. But regardless, there are like 15 other techniques I think Yuta hypothetically could have access to based on where he has been located in the series, people who he has interacted with, and the special month of training where he had a whole bunch of time to review a whole bunch of old footage from very major special events. But we are not using that hypothetical fan in Yuta. We are not using the Yuta that secretly copied everything. We're using the Yuta that we know exists. And that Yuta has 3 hexes. Number 1, it's going to be the original cursed speech. Number 2, it's going to be the not original Drew Shikigami technique. And number 3, it's going to be the final and most recent one, sky manipulation. And allow me to explain to you why none of these things matter at all. Number 1, I think Sukuna knows how cursed speech works. I think he deliberately does. I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my dome piece, but I'm pretty sure when Sukuna was in Itadori's body, he interacted with Inumaki once or twice. So he knows how cursed speech works. If he even sees Yuta begin to gather cursed energy in his throat, or heavens forbid, he actually sees the seals form on Yuta's mouth area, then obviously he's going to reinforce his ears, and now, cursed energy is useless. Or not cursed energy, cursed speech is useless. And that's if, like, it could even work. We know if you are much weaker than your opponent, and once again, we gotta remember, Yuta himself is guessing that Sukuna has over twice the amount of cursed energy that he does. We know if you are much weaker than your opponent, or at least weaker at all, you may actually do more damage to yourself than them by attempting to use cursed speech. So maybe Sukuna doesn't even have to reinforce his ears, but it's likely Sukuna just reinforces his ears and then Yuta wastes cursed energy trying to use cursed speech. Number 2, Drew Shikigami technique. They are literally insects. They're literally insects. Notably, you could make a pretty decent argument that maybe Yuta could spawn the big ones, the big boys that we see Drew use in the Sendai colony early on when like Kenjaku go gets Itadori's friend, or when I believe we just get it at the introduction of Sendai. Like maybe you could argue he spawns those, but even then, one cleave to the head and they're done. Any of the small ones, Sukuna literally just grabs out of midair and crushes. So that orbiting domain stuff isn't even going to happen. So, True Shikigami technique, not useful at all. Unfortunately, it's kind of just a rough spot for Yuta on that one. And then finally, this could be the fun one. Sky manipulation is weird. Because hypothetically, once again, in a similar vein to Soul Splitter, if Yuta lands the hit, then theoretically it should do damage, right? Because Thin Icebreaker in particular doesn't attack the person, it attacks the sky or the space in front of the person and then shatters that, causing essentially Duraneg damage. But like once again, you would somehow need to prove that not a hypothetical, but the Yuta we know, with Yuta's current scaling, someone who's relative to Ryu in speed, and Ryu gets perception blitz, you need to somehow argue that Yuta could even tag 20 Finger Sukuna with that good, juicy, thin icebreaker. And I just don't think he can. I think it's just out of his pay grade in order to tag such a mighty, girthy beast like 20 Finger Sukuna. I know I'm slopping off Sukuna a whole bunch in this video. I'm still a Gojo Glazer. Gojo, he's kind of above this. He's beyond this discussion. I don't think I need to convince... Do I have to do that? Do I have to make a video on Gojo versus the heavy hit? I may do that just for fun, just to explain once again how they get absolutely mollywopped. But with that being the case, even Sky Manipulation wouldn't really do too good. Maybe Yuta could use it to, like, stall out Sukuna by flying away, or like attempt to redirect some of Sukuna's attacks. But once again, you got to realize, in order to fly away and escape and or redirect Sukuna's attacks, you need to be able to react to Sukuna's attacks, and Yuta's not going to be able to do that. Once again, just based off what we know, there's nothing in Yuta's skilling that implies that he'd even be able to use either of those abilities of Sky Manipulation. And thusly, he's done in too. The final major hacks or ability you could argue of Yuta's is Rika. But once again, I'm 99.9% sure Rika, despite being a Shikigami-esque thing, is still a cursed spirit. It's the husk left behind by Rika Orimoto. And we know that Sukuna can use RCT on other people. So you could hypothetically backhand Rika out of existence, especially with 20 fingers worth of cursed energy, and or he would just beat it. Like, he would just straight up beat Rika. Like, notably, Rika, despite getting a whole bunch of hype, isn't implied to be at all stronger or faster or any more dangerous than Sukuna. Like, once again, Ryu's able to go bar for bar, word for word relative with fully manifested Rika with pretty much no issue, even able to punch her away on numerous occasions. So, if Ryu can do it, I'm pretty sure Sukuna can do it. Let's say Ryu, since he has the highest output, Sukuna wouldn't be able to simply punch Rika away. Rika would never hit him. Like, never. Rika would never be able to grab him. He's just too fast. He's too speedy. He's too diabolical. And that's it. Those are all of their abilities. And all of their scaling. And Sukuna just comes out untouched. Once again, simply because we don't know how fatigued Sukuna's going to be. Maybe if Sukuna's left to, like, a millionth of his cursed energy, then maybe they can come get him. But based on how Sukuna's been acting, even by the end of 229, he seems fine. Bro has not seemed to be running out of steam anytime soon. He's not like Yuta and Sendai. Nah, bro's got juice on juice, by juice, for juice. He's ultra efficient. So at best, they're going to catch like a 50% 20 Fingers Sukuna. But I think 50% 20 Fingers Sukuna still absolutely washes them. And here's the thing, right? I've been kind of pretending that the only thing that Sukuna's doing in this hypothetical fight is just dodging or redirecting them. I want you to realize that all of the Jujutsu High heavy hitters instantly, and I mean instantly, lose to a Malevolent Shrine. Easy. Legitimately, it's not impossible. Here's the thing, right? Maybe you could argue that, well, Hakari, if he's in Jackpot, is basically immortal. He would be able to survive it if Gojo could do it. You know what? I'll even give you that. I'll give you that, sure. Let's say Hakari can survive Malevolent Shrine. He'll survive it for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And if he can even move well enough to try and attempt Domain, Guess what? His domain immediately gets torn apart on the outside by the lingering malevolent shrine, and then he just dies. Simple as that. Maki, unfortunately, this is the one domain in the entire series. Yes, I'd say even Kenjaku's domain may not work because we don't have enough details on that. But this is the one domain in the entire series that specifically has a condition built for the Heavenly Restriction users. If a dismantle, or realistically like 20 dismantles, hit Maki all at once all over her body, she's perishing. If she's taking damage from a simple punch from 15-finger Sukuna, a 20-finger Sukuna Malevolent Shrine dismantle on endless repeat is going to annihilate her. There will be nothing left of her. And even Yuta after getting his hand charred off and getting hit around and having some things up in his guts for a little bit, he was already running low on cursed energy. He's not surviving 4 minutes and 11 seconds in Malevolent Shrine. He's going to run out of energy. He's going to burn through all his RCT. Even Rika, as bulky as she is, she can still get got, considering the cleaves will simply adjust to her amount of cursed energy and just tear her apart and at least lock her down for 5 minutes. And then she goes back to unmanifested Rika, and I don't think I need to tell you unmanifested Rika immediately dies in Malevolent Shrine. Like, it's just simple as that. None of them have a way to beat that. Even if you want to argue they could pull some nonsense like Gojo did and like open their domains and like change their conditions and flip it all around, getting all dirty down the town, like specifically Yuta and Hakari, then they are still in the same position that they were before, where they now need to fight 20-finger Sukuna. And they lose. Like, legitimately, that'd be it. They would have to fight 20-finger Sukuna all over again. And they can't do that. Even if all three of them are safe inside the domain, Sukuna still has cleave. Sukuna still has dismantle. He still has the fire arrows. He still has the rest of the 10 shadows. I've gone this entire video without mentioning the 10 shadows. But I'm sorry. Being real with you. If Nue was that big off of 15 fingers worth of cursed energy, how big do you think Nue is going to be off of 20? Sure, Maki was able to dodge them lightning bolts once, but we have seen that Hakari is not the best at dodging lightning bolts. That boy is going to get tagged and vaporized. Same thing with Yuta, unfortunately, though he may take a couple hits. Same thing with Jackpot Hakari. But that's the thing. They are still in immediate trouble. The Piercing Bull. Maki may be able to one-tap it with like Soul Splitter Katana, but like even still, if it charges anyone else, Hakari punches it back, it charges again. Hakari punches it back, it charges again. Hakari punches it back, he breaks his fist as it charges again. Same thing with Yuta, it would just bulldoze right on through him. That's it. The Divine Dogs. Rabbit Escape, which really didn't change all too much. Maximum Elephant or Myriad Elephant. What are they going to do if Sukuna just floods the domain? Just fills up the whole space with a whole bunch of water. Like, legitimately. And here's the thing. Say somehow they mystically, magically, Miska Muska, Mickey Mouse their way into a dub. A fat, juicy dub against any of the lesser Shikigami. What are they going to do against Maharaga? What are they going to do against Maharaga? I've already, like, here's the thing. I forgot to mention Maki and Toji in the Can Anyone Beat Maharaga video, but they couldn't either. Like, they tried to soul split it once, and they swing through it. And then Maharaga, who's shown the ability to hold itself together when it's being sliced apart by numerous different attacks that cut clean through it, 15-finger Sukuna's dismantle, it heals itself, the wheel spins, and now Soul Split Katana doesn't work anymore. That's their only win con. Legitimately. Like, Maki would have to bull rush it and slice it to pieces out of hope of them winning, but it's not going to happen. Maharaga's way too fast. If the current 20-finger Maharaga is able to move and stab Unlimited Void before Gojo can fire off a singular technique, then it's going to be way too fast for everybody else. They would literally all get perception blitzed by Maharaga. Easily. It would actually be kind of embarrassing how badly Maharaga would do them and smack them all up. By the way, Sukuna's still there. And who knows, Sukuna could just open Malevolent Shrine on their head anyway. Like, that's it. That's it. Like, there's literally nothing they can do, even against a Fatigue. The only kind of way I see them beating a Fatigue Sukuna is if Sukuna's literally on, like, 1%. He has no energy left for domains. He only has 1 or 2 cleaves or dismantles left in him, and all the 10 shadows are destroyed. That's the only way I can see them eking out a W, and even then, I think Sukuna would give them a really good run for their money. That's just how powerful 20 Fingers Sukuna is. That's just how different the level of power is for someone like him relative to the kiddos. It's unfortunate, but it be like that when it be like that, especially when it be like that. However, that's what I think. Please what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. You get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.